In this video, we are starting our Where to Live in Austin, Texas series. And if you've been doing your homework, whether by yourself, with your partner, or for your family, as to where you might be relocating within the greater Austin area, surely two places have popped up on your list, and those would be Georgetown and Round Rock. So in this video, we will be comparing the two, looking at things like the schools, the commutes, the politics, the affordability, the things to do, and so much more. And we're getting after it right now. Hello again, guys and gals. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Frank and I'm part of a team at the award-winning JB Goodwin Brokerage right here in the marvelous Austin, Texas. Each and every week we put out tons of new content all in regards to living in Austin, Texas, whether it be the pros and cons, the cost of living, comparisons of certain cities and states, vlog tours of certain areas and neighborhoods, and so much more. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel and ringing the little bell so that you're notified each and every time we put out a new video. In addition, we get reach outs all the time from people just like you who are in need of our help when relocating to this great city of Austin. We love to make it as smooth of a move as possible, learn your lifestyle so we can place you in the perfect spot, and all you've got to do is pack up those boxes and we take care of the rest. But the only way we can do that for you is by you reaching out to us, so do not hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90 days away, be sure to send us an email, shoot us a text, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. It's what we love to do, so we do it. But enough of the small talk, let's move right along. And as mentioned in this video, we will be comparing the two, Georgetown and Round Rock, and seeing how they stack up against each other. For starters, a general overview. They are both neighboring city suburbs. They are each between, I'd say, 20 minutes and about 40 minutes from the downtown metro area. And I personally like to look at them as sort of siblings, right? So I think of Georgetown as the older sibling that kind of does its own thing, keeps to itself, stays authentic, and so on, whereas Round Rock might be the younger sibling by a hair and has really been the exuberant one, the one to really grow, the one to become a major part of the greater Austin area. I've spent plenty of time in both places. I personally enjoy them both. However, I would say they have differing vibes, differing personalities and cultures, which we will elaborate more on in this video. Now, if you're curious to see these places or learn more about them specifically, check out our other videos on this channel. We've done vlog tours of each one, as well as other videos really narrowing down and getting specific for each one. So if in this video you find one that you're more partial to, go ahead and check out those videos and dive even deeper to learn all you can about it. Now, for starters, let's talk about the size, because in my opinion, the size really does matter and factors into how these two compare in the way they feel. So Georgetown has about 63,000 residents right now, and Round Rock has about 116,000 residents. So Round Rock obviously has almost twice as many people living in it as Georgetown. And what this generally means, and in this case does mean, is that Round Rock does have more of a suburban feel to it, whereas Georgetown, with half the population, maintains that small town feel with its own charm, very authentic, whereas Round Rock is going to have your big box stores, but it's also going to be more alive, right? Pros with the cons, you're going to have more employers there, you're going to have more of a booming economy. So ultimately, it does depend on which style of living, which vibe is right for you. You might like to have more people, you might like to live in a place that feels like it's more alive and booming, or you might prefer the more small town feel with less people, with less traffic. So in this versus video, I can't necessarily say one's a winner because that is ultimately subjective, but in your head right now, you are probably thinking to yourself, which one sounds better? Now, since we've covered the size of the two, let's naturally segue into the age of the two. So your median age in Georgetown is going to be around 47 years old. Your average age in Round Rock is going to be around 33 years old. So you're looking at a pretty substantial difference between the two. In Round Rock, you are going to find more first-time buyers, people who are either planning a family or it's just them and their spouse younger couples and things of that nature getting into the schools there, checking out all the varying neighborhoods because of Round Rock's larger size. Now, I don't necessarily mean to insinuate that Georgetown doesn't have any young people. That would be completely untrue. Same with Round Rock having couples, maybe empty nesters who have their kids have gone to college, or maybe they don't have any kids and are of an older age. So I'm not necessarily trying to deter you or dissuade you or disenchant you. I'm just going off of the averages here. And again, like the size, this is ultimately subjective. You know, what kind of people do you want to be around? And at the end of the day, which one is right for you? Now, in addition to Georgetown being smaller and older and Round Rock being larger and younger, another thing I'll throw into the mix is that Georgetown is 73% Caucasian, where Round Rock is 50% Caucasian. So it is going to offer more diversity. Obviously, with a higher population, those numbers are going to be very different from Georgetown. So let's say you are starting a family or you already have kids and you're wanting to pick between the two. Well, if you're wanting your kids to be exposed to different cultures, to different backgrounds, to different walks of life, to different faiths, to different beliefs in general, whatever the case may be, different languages they might hear, Round Rock is going to be your safer bet. Or if I'm speaking to you and you yourself are wanting to be involved in different communities or join different groups or be with a more diverse group of people, you yourself are also going to have a better chance of finding that in a place like Round Rock as opposed to Georgetown. And again, for the record, not trying to dissuade or deter anyone away from Georgetown, I'm just looking at the data. And of course, you are going to find diversity in Georgetown. It's just going to be, what was the number, about 23% less diverse, just going off those statistics. Now, I feel the need to say that the city of Austin itself, the downtown metro area, and its culture and its history and where it's at right now, prides itself in being quite a melting pot. You know, Austin is the #1 hotspot for relocation in the country right now. So everyone is moving to Austin from everywhere. And I don't just mean people moving here from within the country. I'm talking about internationally. You know, a lot of the clients we've gotten reach outs from have been in Ireland, have been in Finland, have been in Argentina, have been in the Caribbean. And so, of course, if you're wanting to experience all the different walks of life and hear a bunch of different languages and see all the multitude of complexions, you will find that in downtown Austin. But I will add, once you get into the suburbs, the nearing suburbs that are probably within 15 to 25 minutes of the downtown metro area are going to be more diverse in general. So the Cedar Parks of the world, the North Austins of the world, the Pflugervilles of the world, and the Round Rocks of the world are going to have strong Asian communities, strong Black communities, strong Indian communities, and so on. And when you're looking at places like Leander or Georgetown or Liberty Hill, that are a little bit north, further away from that downtown diverse melting pot area, you're going to see it gradually get less and less and less and less diverse. And that is the case here with Georgetown and Round Rock, because on the map, once again, you've got Round Rock, which is already about 20-30 minutes away from downtown, and then Georgetown is another 10-20 north of Round Rock. So I might be stating the obvious, but I'm really just trying to spell it out, break it down, and paint you as accurate of a picture as I can. Next up, let's talk about the subject of jobs and employment between the two respective cities. Now, this is going to be brief because I would like to give you the disclaimer. I am not a employment expert. I am not a job expert. We did put out a video quite a while back ranking the top employers within the greater Austin area. So if you want more specific information, check that out. But what I am simply trying to articulate is that my expertise is in helping people relocate, and because of that video and others where I do talk about employment, I have gotten reach outs from people saying, hey, could you help me find a job? Hey, I have X and Y qualifications. What job would you think best suit me? Or hey, do you have any connections with the job field where you could help me figure something out when I'm coming? And unfortunately, I do apologize. I just don't feel comfortable giving that advice, because you wouldn't want someone giving you advice on something they're not an expert on. So with that said, though, I will address what the different major employers are between the two cities and just give you a more vague, broad, general idea of what you can expect from the two. So your top 3 jobs in Georgetown are going to look like manufacturing, construction, and healthcare. With the way Georgetown is growing, it really seems like there's endless construction, there's endless development and growth, and there's a lot of hospitals out there, there's a lot of people in that field, a lot of nurses as well. There will be big companies, there will be big factories. So if those are your trades, if those are your areas of expertise, look no further. Now with Round Rock, the three biggest employers in Round Rock are probably going to be tech for sure. And then you've got education, and then you've also got healthcare in Round Rock. In my time, I've Googled it, I've done my research on where it ranks and all that stuff, and I'm surprised to find that I don't see the numbers for nurses as strongly in Round Rock as I do in other areas. But I tell you, my office is based in Round Rock. A lot of the clients we've helped come here have chosen Round Rock. And just in my past experience doing real estate, a lot of the people I've worked with and helped in Round Rock have been nurses. It seems like 1 out of every 3 people I bump into or talk to or help in Round Rock are nurses. So I might not have the data to back that up, but speaking just on my own life experience, you do find a lot of people in healthcare in Round Rock, which is something it has in common with Georgetown. But the biggest outlier for sure is going to be tech. Now, the two cities are directly neighboring each other, so when you do your homework online, you are going to find that they do share a majority of the same employers because they're, within minutes of each other. However, tech, in Round Rock, you've got Dell, as in Dell computers. And to me, it's the most random thing, right? Because all of these major companies are usually based in the Bay Area or in these humongous hubs in the country. And it's not even in Austin, which is, like I said, popping right now. It's growing, it's exploding, but it's not Manhattan, it's not California, you know what I mean? It's not even Chicago for that matter. So for it to be in Round Rock, just the most random city suburb in the greater Austin area, for Dell to have planted its roots, to this day still shocks me. Like, really? Dell in Round Rock, in my backyard, you know what I mean? So, but that is going to be where a lot of people work in Round Rock. It is the #1 major employer for people who live in Round Rock. But in addition to Dell, other tech jobs include IBM, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Tesla. Not that they are based in Round Rock, because it's frankly not big enough for all of those companies. But it is, as I said, about 10 to 15 minutes south of Georgetown, which makes it closer in proximity to the North Austin tech area and the downtown metro area, which is where a lot of these tech companies are located. So the people we've helped relocate here for work, naturally, they don't want to be stuck in the thick of downtown, and they think the commute is reasonable enough in Round Rock as opposed to Georgetown. So yes, the people living in Round Rock still work in more tech jobs, even if those tech jobs aren't in Round Rock. I might be confusing you, I might be confusing myself, but I just wanted to attempt to spell that out for you guys. Georgetown is just going to have lesser tech options, and primarily because it is further away from that hub of Austin. Now, I will add what I think is cool is that, especially in light of COVID, since the craze of that and how it's gradually dying down, at least as of the making of this video, who knows what the future holds, but right now it is nearing July of 2021, we have found that a lot of the clients we've helped recently, they get to work from home. So not only are people relocating to Austin for work specifically, but they're also choosing to move to Austin regardless of where their work is, because they have the ability to work from home, and they're saying, hey Frank, can you find us a place with a home office, with a nice backyard, because they're going to be spending a lot of their time at home instead of commuting. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, before moving on, go ahead and drop a comment down below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Or if you have any suggestions of which two cities we should compare in our next video, go ahead, drop them down below. We'd love to get involved with you guys. In addition, consider liking our video as well, as it really helps our channel grow and tells us that we're doing a good enough job providing value for you guys. Lastly, if you have anyone in your life, a parent, a spouse, a child, a friend who is considering moving to Austin, Texas, go ahead and share our content with them and spread the good word. And since I mentioned it, let's move along and talk a little bit about the commute. Now, Round Rock on average is going to be, if you are in South Round Rock closer to Pflugerville, you could get to downtown Austin at best probably 15 minutes. 20 will be your smooth average, and then the rush hour times can be 30 minutes, or if it's horrific, you're looking at probably an absolute maximum of 40 minutes in Round Rock. Now with Georgetown, you're looking at your best, your smoothest, 25 minutes if things are just flowing. Maybe if you take the toll road, which it's a beautiful thing about living in Texas are those toll roads, baby. Okay, anyways, but yeah, 25 minutes is going to be your smoothest average, but it can be as bad as an hour when that rush hour is at its absolute worst. But to me, in my experience, going from Georgetown to downtown, I'll say you can expect 35 minutes. And then, like I said, Round Rock, about 25 minutes because they are about 10 minutes within each other. Of course, generalizing, because if you are in north Georgetown and you are in south Round Rock, then you're looking at 20 minutes, 25 minutes between point A and point B, between the two cities. Something else I'll add about the commutes is based off the past conversations we've had with clients who we're trying to find the perfect place for. They're looking at Hutto, they're looking at South Austin, they're looking at East Austin, they're looking at Cedar Park, and they're looking at Lago Vista, whatever the place may be. And they are concerned about the commute. I am always a little bit afraid to tell them, hey, because of how big Texas is by default, even though Austin is a much smaller city in comparison to Houston or say Dallas, just by being in Texas still, with how big the state is, your greater Austin area is still going to be humongous. So when they say, oh yeah, we're looking at Round Rock, we're looking at Georgetown, and I utter those words and say, okay, well, you're looking at, 25, 35, 45 minutes of a commute, and I cringe and I wait for this bad reaction, I tend to be relieved and I'm surprised because a lot of the people we do help, this is who I'm specifically referring to, are from the coasts, right? And on the coast, you deal with the worst of the worst. Like we just had a phone call recently with someone moving from the Bay Area, that San Francisco area, and they were looking at Georgetown. So I told them, just a heads up, buddy, that commute is not going to be ideal, you know what I mean? And I told him the number, 35, 45 minutes. And he kind of laughed and said, well, man, we're in the Bay Area. Our commute is easily over an hour, and that's just life here. So I bring that up because I'm not trying to deter or dissuade anyone. I keep it brutally honest on this channel, but I am reminding you, if you are from the coast, it is probably going to be more of a breath of fresh air, simply because you're not going to be dealing with those types of commutes, that type of traffic. I lived in Los Angeles for a year, and oh my goodness, I thought I knew rush hour, but God, I know Los Angeles is its own thing. It can't really be compared. It's its own beast. Not even Californians look at LA and think, oh, that's very Californian. That's kind of like, that's just LA. The rest of us are actually Californians, right? And when I lived there, I was so used to it starting to get backed up at 2 and not clearing out until 8 or 9. That was quite a reality, and that is not the case here. When I came back home, I thought, oh, this is what I missed. Yes, Austin's traffic is getting worse, especially closer to the city, but it is going to be nicer here, and that's what I wanted to bring up. If you're coming from, say, the Midwest, or a place that is perhaps smaller than Austin or less spread out than the great state of Texas, well, then these commutes are going to be a headache. So I wanted to tackle that. I wanted to really break it down and give you as concise of an answer as possible so that you know what to expect. You never want to be blindsided because moving is such a significant moment in anyone's life. You only do it so many times that you want to get it right. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Next up, let's talk about the schools between Round Rock and Georgetown, more specifically those school districts. Now, for starters, in my experience in real estate, the number one thing that brings people here are the schools. Because a lot of the people we help are families, and they have their kids at whatever age they are, and they are wanting to get them in the best schools possible. Thankfully, the state of Texas, not just Austin, but the state of Texas itself, has the reputation of having those cream of the crop public school districts. And while Georgetown has a very respectable school district, Round Rock is really one of the biggest ones we get questions about, as well as Leander. So the Leander Independent School District covers North Austin, it covers Cedar Park, it covers obviously Leander, and places close to Georgetown and close to Round Rock. And that is really the 1A to the 1B that is Leander and Round Rock. People are always trying to see which one is best. But for the sake of this video, I will ignore the Leander Independent School District and focus, of course, on the Round Rock and Georgetown Independent School Districts. For starters, according to niche.com, Georgetown has about 13,000 students total, and Round Rock has about 40,000 students total. So very lopsided in size, but again, that goes back to what I talked about of Round Rock having 116,000 people versus Georgetown's 63, and of course, the age demographics as well. Now, niche.com gave Georgetown a overall score of a B+, and it gave Round Rock an overall score of an A. Not A+, not A-, but just an A. And what I will say is, of course, as any of the previous points I've brought up in this video, it's all subjective, pick what's best for you. With this one, I will actually go out and say that the schools are going to be better in Round Rock, not just because of the grade, but because of, it's just premium. It's just cream of the crop. You know, our public schools here are often compared to private schools in terms of their quality. You know, I've heard horror stories of public schools in other states and other cities in the country that don't have the right technology for the kids, that don't have, you know, the best libraries for the kids, that have found homeless people sleeping in the stairways, that are still using, you know, chalkboards or whatever the case may be, you know, broken ACs that don't get fixed for weeks at a time. And it startled me because, you know, when you're growing up, you don't know what you don't know, and you think that your experience is the same as everyone else's experience. So I was privileged, I went to Leander, but you know, it's basically comparable to Round Rock. So I had it made, you know, I really thought, wow, this is everyone's experience, and it was great. The schools are very new. You know, your oldest school might be in the late 90s, maybe late 80s, but a majority of them have been built after 2000, after 2010, and they're even cranking new ones out right now. And in addition to that, they are absolutely huge, and that's something that is probably specific to Texas, right? Because we build like this, we don't build like that. And so they're going to have humongous schools, and in addition, your schools are going to be with several buildings. So where I went, my school had, God, 4 or 5 different buildings, the 5th one being a new building that was simply an auditorium made just for choir shows, dance shows, talent shows, tech theater, assembly, and things like that. You're also going to have state-of-the-art football stadiums, brand new facilities. You know, a lot of the school's budget come from boosters, which are basically parents that give money to the schools. Just think of college and alumni. Hey, you want to give us money? You already gave us a ton of money, but want to give us more money? And so these public schools really do resemble private schools, just without the uniforms. Even though they are humongous in size, they still maintain great ACT test scores, SAT test scores, and great graduation rates as well. So I'm not saying that the Georgetown Independent School District doesn't have any of that, but it's going to pale in comparison to the powerhouse of a school district that Round Rock has. In addition, Round Rock has branches of Texas A&M, superb school. Round Rock also has a branch of Texas State University, and of course, ACC, which is Austin's community college. Now, Georgetown does have the highly rated Southwestern University, which I visited and is part of our vlog tour there, and it's a great school, it's a great campus. But even still, Round Rock, as I said, is just going to have more options, more branches of education, and more jobs, of course, in education because of all of that. So it's really been subjective up until now, but finally I can try and put my objective hat on and tell you that if you are prioritizing the schools, if that is at the top of your list in your relocation process, look no further. Round Rock has you covered. And if you are wanting to learn more about that specifically, we did put out a video ranking the best school districts in the entire Austin area. So maybe Round Rock isn't for you, but you're still wanting to know the best options. Check that video out. And off the top of my head, might I recommend Leander. Now let's move on to the subject of things to do. And this is where you really get a sense of the personalities of Georgetown and Round Rock. So let's start with Round Rock. In Round Rock, you are going to have your Round Rock premium outlets, which were built in the mid-2000s. It is a gigantic outlet mall outdoors where it's one big square, and it's, God, I mean, you can get your cardio walking there. They have most stores that you want. Of course, outlet mall prices, a great food court. It's very close to I-35, the main artery of travel within not only Texas, but much of the country. So that really is your typical cliche suburban shopping experience. And right across the street from it, you've got a humongous IKEA that, to my knowledge, was built in the past 10 to maybe 12 years. And I'm a sucker for IKEA. I just go there for fun and follow the arrows and all that stuff. So Round Rock, staying consistent with its suburban vibe, right? Because it's technically a city, not trying to offend anyone, but you know, it has all the characteristics of a suburb. Now, in addition to the outlet malls, in addition to IKEA, Round Rock also has Dell Diamond, and that is basically where they have their local baseball team. Even if you're not into baseball, it's one of those things like, well, I live in Round Rock, I'm going to be a good Round Rock resident and go to these games, and they are a lot of fun. I've been to a couple. Baseball's not my thing. I am definitely a basketball guy, so I'm waiting on them to let me know when they have something like that to offer, but it is a great experience. You know, it's something for the whole family to do, or you can take your date, and there's even shows there. There's different things that they use the venue for. Dell Diamond is actually really a main hub of Round Rock. It always has been. It's really a staple. And of course it is the Dell Diamond, as I mentioned, Dell being located in the heart of Round Rock. In addition to the Dell Diamond, you've also got Old Settlers Park, which is a gorgeous way to spend your time outside. And they also have the Play for All Park, which has a special place in my heart because it does allow for people who are hearing impaired, vision impaired, special needs. And it has Wi-Fi, it has benches, it has a zip line, it's loaded with things to do, activities. A lot of different donors have put money towards it. A lot of grants have been given to it just because of its mission in a way. So parks are going to be something that Round Rock has an abundance of. Not to say Georgetown doesn't, but I'm talking about Round Rock right now. Now, in addition to the parks, Round Rock also has its own downtown, which if you watch our Round Rock vlog, it was one of our very first videos. Didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we visited that downtown area and it is pretty cool. I will say, do not expect it to resemble anything of Austin's downtown. This is Round Rock's own little hub, and it has local bars, it has local shops and mom and pop general stores and candy stores and nice little restaurants and eateries and places of history and things like that. And it is charming, and it is, in my opinion, very aesthetically pleasing, but it's apples and oranges if you're comparing it to the downtown of Austin. Lastly, for Round Rock, I will mention Kalahari. Now, Kalahari opened just in the past year or two, and it hangs its hat on being the largest indoor water park in the country. It was being built for ages. I remember hearing about its development years ago, and then forgetting about it, and then finally being like, oh, it's done, it's finished, it's complete. So Kalahari, in addition to being the largest indoor water park in the world, it is also very much just like a resort. It has an abundance of hotel rooms, so it really does attract people who are not living in Round Rock, but passing through or coming to Round Rock specifically to enjoy Kalahari day in and day out, because it has a lot of things to offer. You know, in addition to the water park and the rooms, it has a humongous arcade, right? Resembling Dave & Buster's or Main Event, one of these places. Colorful, fun, kids absolutely love it. I went in there as part of our tour and I turned into a kid again, you know what I mean? Just looking around, wanting to participate. And in addition to the arcade and the rest of what I've mentioned, it has shopping. It's gorgeous. It's like you leave one place and then you're in a shopping mall with fountains that resembles Las Vegas, perhaps without the gambling, but it's a huge thing. They have these animal replicas outside. It's just fun. It's a nice thing to do. And it is employing a lot of people within Round Rock. At least 1,000 new jobs have been given to people who work there. And it's helped boom the economy, and it's brought a lot of people to Round Rock, locals and of course tourists. So that could be bad if you're wanting something more small town, which is what we're gonna get to with Georgetown. But if that's what you're vibing with, if you want that in your backyard, it is a pretty penny, but if you can swing it, that is absolutely a humongous reason to plant your roots in Round Rock. And before moving on to Georgetown, what I will remind you of is all of those things in Round Rock encompass and encapsulate its personality, right? It does feel like a suburb. Everything is catered for the family. Everything is big and popular. And it also falls in line with that age average of about 33 years old that I mentioned. Just connecting all the dots, right? You're seeing now what Round Rock really does have to offer and the vibe it gives off. Now with Georgetown, its personality shines more in its small town charm. So for starters, Georgetown has the very famous, to some extent, town square. It was voted the most gorgeous downtown in the country, the fastest growing downtown, the best, I don't know, it's on all these lists, on all these websites of make sure you pass through the town square in Georgetown. You know, it's very historic, it's very rich in culture as well. And that's where I might prefer Georgetown versus Round Rock because Round Rock does have all of these fun events for the family to get excited about, right? Whereas Georgetown is just being Georgetown. Georgetown is gonna do its own thing. It's gonna have its own stuff to offer, whether you vibe with it or not, whereas Round Rock is more generally accessible. So in addition to the town square area in Georgetown, you've also got various wineries. In addition, you've got art galleries, which I think is really cool. That goes to tell you its love for local businesses, local economy, mom and pop stuff. And of course it is local art, so you are going to have that experience. And I'm picturing it in my head, you know, you're walking around town square, it's a quiet town, small town feel. You've got your wine from the winery, assuming they let you take it out. And now you're gonna go stroll through an art gallery. You know what I mean? That's very, and then you see a pickup truck outside and some guy tipping his hat. You know, I'm not saying everyone in Georgetown is a country hick, no, but I'm painting you a picture of the aesthetic, if you will, or if you won't. And of course, on the subject of local wineries and local art galleries, you have your abundance of local shops and stores full of cool little things, stuff you wouldn't think of that, oh my God, there's a store for that and it's locally owned and it's quaint and it's charming, and an abundance of that if that's how you like to spend your weekend or like to spend your time strolling. Of course, in this heat, you might want to take an umbrella, which is something I do, even though I get the funny looks, but just a lot of that community, a lot of that camaraderie, a lot of, you might even know some people if it's small enough, right? As opposed to Round Rock, which is just baseball games, water resort, you know what I mean? In addition to that, you've got the Palace Theater. Now the Palace Theater has dramas, it has comedy, it has all different types of shows that I think is really cool and is something refreshing, because usually you find your improv places or your comedy places or your one-act show places in downtown Austin. That is absolutely something that Austin's culture fosters, right? The arts. Very much an Austinite thing to do. So I think it is cool to see in a distant city suburb of Georgetown, small town, to have its own place for that, to celebrate the arts in its own way. As well, in every April, they have the Poppy Festival. So there's a parade that goes through. There are musical acts that go through. The whole town comes together. It's very united. It just has that heart and soul, right? And they celebrate living in Georgetown. You know, there's a lot of events that happen around that time of year. Even people who don't live in Georgetown go to Georgetown just to experience it. Just very happy time of year. Not too hot yet. And speaking of it being not too hot yet around that time of year, you have an abundance of outdoor options in Georgetown as well. For starters, my personal favorite is Lake Georgetown, and there is a part of it called the Overlook. Now granted, it is a place where I spent more of my younger years there because there's cliff jumping. So you'd go with a group of friends, you'd bring your booze, and you'd bring your speaker and you'd jump off the cliffs, you'd swim, you'd chill on the rocks, you'd just watch people, and that's a great way to spend your time. But it's not just for that. A lot of families enjoy it too. They take the boats out to Lake Georgetown, and on the other side of the Overlook, you've got camping sites where you can be grilling and setting up, and so I am partial to Lake Georgetown. But you've also got the Blue Hole Park, which is gorgeous. That's in our Georgetown vlog. We went there just for a little bit. A lot of people like to fish there, they like to picnic there, they like to enjoy the sights. Some of the rowdy college kids from Southwestern like to go and make a ruckus too, but otherwise it can be very peaceful, very tranquil, and very pretty. You know, you're not necessarily making a day at the lake. It's not so much of a, not a chore, but it's not such a draining, time-consuming thing to do. You know, Blue Hole Park is close to a lot in Georgetown, so you can be in the middle of your day doing this errand, doing that errand, getting out of work, getting out of school, and you just want to stop by the park and enjoy the sights and just chill on your half-hour lunch break. That is something that you can do in Georgetown. In addition, you've got the San Gabriel Trail. So this is where if you're more active and you want to ride your bike, if you want to go jogging, or still if you want to have a picnic, that is another great option as well to enjoy the sights and enjoy tranquility in your nice, quiet, charming small town of Georgetown. Now, something else that is more of a tourist attraction, I will say, is the Inner Space Cavern. For me, I'm not a big cave and cavern guy. Not that I'm afraid of it, although maybe to some extent, but I prefer my scenery and my nature and my adventure to be more beautiful, more outdoors, more where I can appreciate the artistry of nature, the brilliance, right? The caverns, I'm not saying are devoid of that, but it's just not my flavor. But that is something that a lot of families like to do and like to do multiple times. So it's not just for the tourists of the world who pass through Georgetown, but it is a great way to get some exercise, to enjoy. You can go on guided tours and spend your day there and really just have a nice time. Lastly, I'll mention my favorite place in Georgetown that I am partial to, and it is called BIG. It is an acronym for Brookwood in Georgetown. It is a nonprofit community with a gift shop, a greenhouse, and a couple buildings where adults with special needs work. And it hits close to home for me because my oldest brother is autistic and he's epileptic. And of course, in public school, they have special ed programs and things like that. But once they're out of public school, it's sad, you know, it angers me a lot of the time, but they just give them jobs bagging groceries, you know, or things like that. And this place in Georgetown has them working in the greenhouse, has them making art, pottery, clay, things of that nature where they keep themselves busy and they create good looking work for the community. And what this nonprofit organization turns around and does is they take what the citizens have created, and mind you, the citizens are getting paid, and then they turn around and sell it, and they have art auctions and all of this stuff that just feeds the organization to build a new building or have a new statue or contribute to the betterment of the lives of these citizens. Again, it really is something that the community gets involved in, and it is a beautiful thing to give these adults with special needs a purpose where they're really celebrated. It is a private organization, so it is a Christian organization, and wherever you are with Christianity or religion, regardless of that, it has the morals, it has the ethics, it has the compassion, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. So my older brother absolutely goes there. I've spent a lot of time there as well. And even my mother, who is hearing impaired, she's deaf. So I have a lot of experience living with people with disabilities. She has been able to work there and be part of that because that gives her satisfaction. And of course she gets to be close to her son, my oldest brother. So that is something I wanted to mention. It's very near and dear to my heart. So if you are going to be choosing Georgetown, I would highly recommend swinging by and supporting it, or at least admiring it, or meeting some of the people and learning about what their mission is. So those are the things you can expect, things to do in Round Rock, things to do in Georgetown. Again, subjective, you choose what wins in your head. For me, based off my personality, I would probably choose Georgetown if you haven't gotten that impression yet. I'm not really a country type of guy, but I am more small town. I'm not big and booming, you know what I mean? So I like those little things. I like the vibe of it, the aesthetic of it. So I would choose Georgetown, but for you, let's say you're in your early 30s or your mid, whatever age you are, you have a family, or Round Rock does have a lot to offer as well. And in some ways, much more to offer than Georgetown. It just depends on who you are, what your lifestyle is, and what you want to live around. Next up, let's talk about politics. Yes. So I will tread lightly because according to the media, we live in a very divided country right now, a climate of extremes, not a lot of listening, and loads of arguing with the loudest people echoing all over social media. So rather than get into politics specifically, I am instead just going to give you a general overview of what you can expect between Round Rock and Georgetown, Texas. And it is a question we get a lot from clients as well. So I'm not trying to steer, I'm not saying what's better or not, I'm just going to give you an idea. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people are apolitical, a lot of people are political but don't care, and a lot of people are political and do care who's living next to them, what kind of policies that city votes for, what, what I mean, things of that nature. So, as I mentioned in many of our previous videos, the city of Austin itself is outrageously liberal. It is very progressive. It hangs its hat on it. It's very eclectic. It's very artistic. It's very eccentric. It's very youthful. It's very vibrant. It's very diverse. And of course, the same can be said for most, if not all, downtown metro areas across the country, and Austin is no different. Now, what I will say is when you get to Round Rock and Cedar Park and North Austin, places that are about 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the downtown metro area, it goes in line with what I said earlier about the diversity, and the politics follows suit. Austin being very liberal, very Democrat, when you get a little bit out of it, it's very mixed, right? So if you take a walk on a suburban street in Cedar Park or Round Rock or even North Austin, and it's election time, you will find a red sign, you will find a blue sign. People will be tolerating of each other, which is really cool. I'm a very kumbaya person, I just want everyone to get along and talk it out, right? So it is a beautiful thing to see where you do have just a great mix. It's almost like it's just 50-50 of people on both sides of the political spectrums being happy neighbors with each other, you know, being mature about everything. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and you will see that in Round Rock. To my point, Round Rock is very mixed. You will have your conservatives, you will have your centrists, and you will have your leftists. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up for Round Rock. And that might be the right fit for you if you like a well-balanced place to live. Now with Georgetown, I am going to be very honest, Georgetown does lean more right. It is a more conservative place to live. Not too long ago, I was driving up to Georgetown to see my brother at the nonprofit that I mentioned, and as I'm entering Georgetown, humongous billboard, Trump, Pence 2020. And it's like, oh, welcome to Georgetown, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying everyone in Georgetown is conservative, because you do have a blend, it's still close enough to Austin, but that's where you'll find more bumper stickers. That's where you'll find more pickup trucks. So yeah, I mean, if you do like that, if you are a more traditional person, if you are a more conservative person, that's what you hang your hat on, that's what you like to live around, you know, like-minded people, then Georgetown is going to be your fit. If you are, as I mentioned earlier, more centrist or more liberal, and you're choosing between the two, you will find more like-minded people in Round Rock, Texas. So whatever side of the fence you're on, I'm not trying to dissuade or deter anyone. I'm just giving you an idea of what to expect. It is a question we get all the time, so I'm just spelling it out to give you a good enough idea. Moving right along, I'm going to talk about the types of homes now that you can expect since you are relocating in either Round Rock or Georgetown, and I'll keep it brief if I can. So in Georgetown, what I like about it is very small town. It is very traditional, it is very old-fashioned with its politics, with its age demographics, with its culture, and because of that, it has conserved and preserved that old town feeling, right? So you can find homes in Georgetown that were built in the 1800s or the 1930s or the 1950s or the 1970s that have been well kept, that have been maintained or upgraded or preserved as they are. So that is something you'll find more of in Georgetown than Round Rock if you are looking for something that has that charm, something that has that old-fashioned build, that old-fashioned floor plan, whatever the case may be. In Georgetown, because it is less developed than Round Rock, because it is smaller than Round Rock, because it is a little bit more country than Round Rock, less suburban, you will also find more land. So whenever we get calls from clients, hey, I'm looking for an acre, 10 acres, a lot of land, farm and ranch, that kind of thing, and they want to be close enough to Austin, we recommend Georgetown because, you know, you can find homes in neighborhoods there still, right? And in the neighborhoods, each house has its own acre of land. And then you also have the outskirts, for lack of a better term, where you'll find more isolated homes, standalone homes on their own property, right? Where they can have their vegetable gardens or their animals or whatever they might want on that land. That is something Georgetown has a bit more in abundance than Round Rock. I'm not saying Round Rock is devoid of any land or devoid of any country atmosphere, because Round Rock is forever expanding and there are just loads and loads and loads of new places and just land for new developments and neighborhoods. And that leads me to talk about Round Rock. So Round Rock, being more suburbia, is going to have more of that. It's going to have more cookie cutter, but it's also going to have more master planned communities than Georgetown, at least in my opinion. And if you're unfamiliar, a master planned community is going to have golf courses, it's going to have stores, it's going to have an elementary school within walking distance, people going around on their golf carts. It's going to have an abundance of different home builders so that they don't all look the same. It's going to have a wide range of prices from the mid-threes to well over $1 million, and it's going to be very large. That is, in essence, what a master planned community is, and Round Rock is riddled with them, at least in comparison to Georgetown. Now, the good news is, if you are someone who is primarily looking for a new build, both Georgetown and Round Rock have new builds to offer because there's just so much land in both of them. You might find more new builds in Georgetown. Not to say Round Rock doesn't have a lot, but if I'm just splitting hairs, new builds are going to be more in Georgetown because of all of this undeveloped land that it has, more so than Round Rock. In addition, Round Rock being more of a hotspot, being more of a popular place to live in the greater Austin area than Georgetown, those new builds are often sold out, or they're often on waiting lists, or they're often in bidding wars just more competitive. Not to say Georgetown is not competitive at all, but again, splitting hairs between the two, Round Rock is going to have more of that demand than Georgetown. So depends on who you are, what kind of houses you're looking for, what your budget is, if you want new, if you want old, upgraded, preserved, etc., land, cookie cutter. You know, that's subjective. You've got to pick which one feels right for me, if I'm alone, if I'm with a spouse, or if I'm with my family. Now, on that note, let's naturally segue into the pricing and the affordability of the housing between Georgetown and Round Rock, Texas. For starters, in my opinion, they are basically the same. Now, you have different sources, right? You have different websites, you have different real estate people who give you numbers, you know what I mean? We have A-Board, which is the Austin Board of Realtors. They have their numbers. Zillow has their numbers. Realtor.com has their numbers. Redfin has their numbers. So many numbers, many of them differing from each other. But in my own experience, they're both going to be around the mid 400s. Right now, the average median between the two is around 450. Some places say 420 for each one. What I will tell you is that as of last month, as of the month, I believe, of May in 2021, the average median home sale price in Georgetown was around $420,000, and the median average home sale price in Round Rock for that past month was closer to $480,000. I think it was $478 to be exact. So just based off that last month alone, because we are splitting hairs here, Round Rock is getting more expensive than Georgetown, or at least it's getting more expensive at a quicker pace than Georgetown. But at the end of the day, you are looking at between 400 and 500, probably right around that 450 mark for both of them when looking at the past 12 months of inventory. And then as it stands right now, you're looking at Georgetown, Round Rock, and just as of lately, Round Rock is edging it out. So they are going to be comparable at the end of the day. There's no juicy winner of them both. But what I will say is that in Georgetown and in Round Rock, it really is a bang for your buck hub. You know, that is why so many people are relocating to Austin, if not for work, then for the bang for your buck, because there are people, believe it or not, paying $1.4 million to live in a 1,600 square foot 50-year-old home in the Bay Area with a tiny backyard. They could sell that, take the 1.4 equity, and buy something waterfront here in Austin. Or they might be living in Portland in a 1,400 square foot townhouse that is worth $400,000, and they want to take that 400 or 450 or 500 to Georgetown, to Round Rock, and buy a house that has 4 bedrooms, that has a theater room, that might have a pool, that might be on a golf course, that might be near an elementary school. So that is what I will say if you're not familiar quite yet with just how affordable it is to live in Texas. Now, granted, San Antonio will be cheaper, Houston will be cheaper, Dallas will be cheaper. Austin is the most expensive place to live in the great state of Texas. But having said that, it is still, by default, going to be better bang for your buck than a majority of the coasts, which is where a majority of our clients are moving from. Now, to keep it brutally honest with you, as I do in all of our videos, if you've been subscribed and you know me by now, you know that I can never be too positive without bringing us back down to earth. So in addition to the bang for your buck that is very true about living here, and the no state income tax, which is a very true and very great part about living in Texas, the catch, the fine print, are those property tax rates. And if you are moving from, like I said, Portland, right, where you're selling that townhouse that is $400,000, but you are only paying 1 or 1.5% property tax on it, those days are over. Here in Texas, where they make their money, if not the state income tax, if not the bang for your buck, right, they make it on the property taxes. So you can expect in places like Georgetown and Round Rock specifically, property taxes of at least 2.4 or 2.5%. You might be able to find 2.3. It might be not as great of an area or an older area, for example, but more commonly, in my experience, you're going to find tax rates between 2.5 and 3%. And if you're in a newer community, a newer build, new developments, new roads, new schools, new this, new that, it can even go above 3%. But let's do an example, okay? Let's say you found a bargain of a home at $350, say in Round Rock, nice little first-time buyer home. $350, and you lock it in at a tax rate of 2.5%, which is a bargain of a tax rate in my opinion. you are still going to be paying just under $9,000 a year on property taxes. So imagine if you find a home that is $550 or $750 or $950, and your tax rate is not 2.5, but it's 2.75, 2.85, or 3%. That's a lot of money to cough up each and every year. Yes, in Texas, once a year you can go and protest your tax rates because they like to keep raising it as they do new appraisals of the area. But otherwise, yeah, you are SOL. That is a reality of living in Texas. That is what you give up for that state income tax. That is the fine print of taking $400 from Portland and putting it in Austin. So I just wanted to run that by you guys. Again, I'm not trying to dissuade. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. But you can never be too aware. You might be budgeting, you might have your lender lined up, you might be pre-approved, you might know exactly what you're going for price-wise, but you might not be thinking about the property taxes. That is why in these videos I like to stress it, so that there's nothing to blindside you. There's nothing that you numerically or mathematically left out of your assessment of what you can afford. And it has been a tough conversation I've had to have with clients in the past who were just oblivious to it. So the more you know, right? So in summary, Georgetown is going to be smaller. Georgetown is going to be a little bit older. Georgetown is going to be more quaint, more charming, more laid back. Round Rock is going to be more booming, more fun, more exciting, more suburban, better schools, mixed politics, and a shorter commute. Both Georgetown and Round Rock are going to be pretty much comparable in pricing and affordability. And ultimately, both Georgetown and Round Rock are marvelous places to live. So whether it is Georgetown or Round Rock or downtown or East Austin or North Austin or South Austin or Hutto or Taylor or Liberty Hill or Leander or Cedar Park, oh my gosh, there's so many. Whichever place you have your eye on, that is what we love to do, finding that perfect place that fits your lifestyle and making your move as smooth as possible. But the only way we can do that is by you reaching out to us. So do not hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away, 90 days away, go ahead and shoot us a text, give us a call, send us an email any day of the week, any time of day. Taking care of people just like you who need our help when relocating is exactly what we love to do. In addition, as I mentioned, we put out tons of new content each and every week, all in regards to living in this fabulous city of Austin. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel and ringing that little bell so that you're notified each and every time we put out a new video. Comment down below with any agreements, disagreements, questions, or if you have ideas of which two cities we should put against each other in our next edition of Where to Live in Austin, Texas. Consider liking this video as well, as it helps us grow, tells us that we're doing a good enough job providing some value for you. Share this with anyone you might know in your life who is considering relocating to Austin, Texas. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas. We'll catch you later.